Have you ever thought about how many people may be very close to you, seemingly identical, but deep down harboring completely different intentions? How many times, at some point in your life, have you placed your trust in someone who seemed like real wheat, but later turned out to be nothing more than weeds in disguise? This is a sobering reality, because we live in a world where appearances can be deceiving, and this is precisely what Jesus' parable of the wheat and the weeds warns us about. The most striking thing is to understand that weeds never appear to be weeds from the start. They grow side by side with the wheat, imitating every detail, copying every movement, easily confusing those who observe only from the outside. And it is in this scenario of false similarities that we often lose our way, because we trust in what appears, but not in what really is. This lesson directly affects our practical lives, the friendships we cultivate, and even the decisions we make, because what appears to be brilliant is not always precious, and not every smile represents sincerity. What's even more striking is realizing that, just as in the field, the weeds don't reveal themselves immediately. They remain hidden, growing side by side with the wheat, feeding on the same soil, reaching the same height, but within them there is no life, no true fruit. How many times have you dedicated yourself to friendships believing they were wheat, only to discover they were merely weeds, draining your strength, draining your energy, and stealing your peace? Jesus' parable goes far beyond a simple agricultural story. It is a powerful and timely metaphor for spiritual and human discernment. In the vast field of life, we are all intermingled, weeds and wheat coexisting together, people who build and strengthen, and people who destroy and weaken, those who bring us closer to God, and those who try to distance us from Him. It is precisely in this tangle of relationships and coexistence that we need to develop discernment, because not everything that seems true really is. Stop and think. How many times have you looked at someone and thought, this person is truly special, different from all the others, only to realize after a while that it was all just appearance? This is precisely what Jesus wanted to warn us about when He told the parable of the wheat and the tares, showing that both in the kingdom of heaven and here on earth, the true and the false grow side by side, and only those with spiritual discernment can distinguish the difference before it's too late. And the most striking thing is to understand that the tares not only imitate the wheat in form, but also try to occupy the same space, seek to feed on the same light, consume the same energy, as if they were parasites of what is genuine. The tares represent everything that presents itself as good, but deep down is empty, sterile, and without real value. They may deceive human eyes with their similarity, but they will never be able to deceive God, because the Lord searches the hearts and knows the true essence of each one. And here's a crucial point. We live surrounded by situations and people who, at first glance, seem similar, but who deep down carry completely different intentions. There are people who, like wheat, produce life, hope, love, and faith, but there are also those who, like weeds, only come to hinder, to confuse, to try to suffocate the good seed God has planted in you. This is what we need to talk about today, because this parable isn't just about a future harvest, it's about the present, about how you perceive those who are by your side now. And perhaps you're wondering, how can I discern who is wheat and who is chaff? How can I avoid being deceived by appearances? This is the question Jesus wants you to bring to your heart. It's an invitation to open your spiritual eyes and realize that not everything that presents itself as true actually has deep roots in God. Often only time reveals the truth, but if we're attentive, we can spot signs beforehand. And this is the challenge I want to propose to you in this video, to understand the difference between the chaff and the wheat in your daily life, because this awareness can save you from much pain, disappointment, and even falling away from your faith. Now, before we move on, I want you to join me. Comment below if you've ever trusted someone who seemed like wheat, but turned out to be chaff. Write in the comments, I've been there, if this message has resonated with you so far, so I'll know this content speaks directly to your life. And stay with me, because from here on, we'll delve even deeper into this powerful parable and understand how to apply Jesus' wisdom to every detail of our journey. And if you felt that this word spoke directly to your life, then this is the perfect time for you to engage even more with this message. Click the subscribe. It's much more than a simple gesture. It's saying to yourself, I want to keep learning. I want to keep growing. I want to better discern who is wheat and who is chaff in my journey. When you activate the notification bell, you ensure that no thoughtful word like this goes unnoticed, because we know that all it takes is one detail, a truth spoken at the right time, to completely change the course of a decision. And don't forget to leave yours too. Because when you do, you're helping this message reach others who also need to open their eyes to this powerful parable. Imagine how many lives can be touched simply by liking, sharing, or commenting. Speaking of comments, I want to challenge you who've made it this far to write, I choose to be wheat, as a public declaration. A milestone of faith and decision in your life. This not only strengthens your spiritual commitment, but also inspires others to take the same action. So don't put it off. Like now, subscribe, activate the bell, and declare your choice in the comments, because the best is yet to come, and this journey is only beginning. When Jesus told the parable of the wheat and the tares, he wasn't just talking about a common crop, but conveying a profound spiritual teaching that spans generations and reaches us in a living form. The wheat represents those who live according to God's will, people who produce fruit, who spread love, faith, kindness, hope, and who reflect the Lord's light in their actions. The tares, on the other hand, symbolize those who infiltrate the field, who appear to be the same as the wheat, but in their hearts carry evil intentions, envy, deceit, and a life that bears no true fruit. This comparison is powerful because it shows us that the difference isn't always immediately visible, and that's why we need spiritual discernment to avoid being deceived by appearances. Just as a farmer looks at his crop and often can't distinguish with the naked eye what is wheat and what is tares, we too, in our journey through life, encounter people and situations that seem genuine but actually hide something dangerous. The weeds and the wheat grow together, feed on the same soil, receive the same rain and sunlight, but the essence of each is completely different. The wheat carries within itself the capacity to nourish, sustain, and transform, while the weeds are empty, sterile, and useless in nourishing anyone. This shows that although appearances are similar, it is the fruits that reveal the truth. Jesus wanted to teach us that a true disciple is not one who merely appears to be someone of faith, but one who lives a life of obedience, who bears fruits of repentance, compassion, and justice. And herein lies the secret. It is not by their beautiful words that we identify the wheat, but by the fruit of the life they generate. It is like someone who may even speak pleasant words, but if there is no love, if there is no truth, sooner or later, the mask falls. This message also warns us about the danger of being deceived by what only appears to be good. We often encounter people who present themselves as friends, trustworthy, and spiritual, but who in practice do not reflect the presence of God. How many leaders, how many voices, how many friendships have passed through your life and left negative marks because they presented themselves as wheat, but in the end were just weeds in disguise? This warning from Jesus is like a beacon in the darkness, reminding us that we need to be alert and grounded in the Word so as not to be led astray. And here lies something even deeper. The weeds are not only harmless, they are dangerous, because their presence in the field tries to suffocate the wheat, tries to steal space, tries to take away nutrients, tries to delay the growth of what is true. It is at this point that we need to stop and reflect. What has been growing around us? Have we been nourished by words that strengthen our faith, or have we allowed the weeds to approach and contaminate our thought? The wheat is what strengthens, builds, and generates life. The weeds are what consume, destroy, and add nothing of value. This distinction is essential because we often don't immediately recognize who is who, and we end up allowing the weeds to take center stage in our lives. This is why Jesus calls us to observe, to be vigilant, to be careful with who we allow to grow alongside us, because the fruits always reveal the truth, even if it takes time. And something interesting is that in the spiritual world, the enemy doesn't try to manifest himself in an obvious way, because if he were to appear clearly, everyone would notice and turn away. What he does is try to imitate, disguise himself, appear similar, to confuse, to deceive, to mislead. This is why the tares are mixed with the wheat, because in appearance they are similar, but inwardly they are completely different. This is one of the greatest lessons of this parable. The struggle is not only between what is good and what is clearly evil, but between what is true and what is false, between what is the fruit of obedience and what is merely an imitation. And if we are not careful, we can easily fall into the trap of thinking that everything that appears good comes from God, when in fact it is not always so. Now, stop for a moment and reflect. Are there people, situations, or even thoughts in your life that you've treated as wheat, but which are actually tares? Have you given attention, time, and energy to things that don't produce true fruit? This is a profound question, and I want you to think about it honestly. Because discernment begins when we recognize that we need to open our spiritual eyes and ask God for wisdom to identify what is real and what is false. The tares and the wheat may seem the same at first, but when harvest time comes, the difference becomes clear, and only those who are grounded in Christ will have the strength to endure. And here I want to propose a practical challenge. Write in the comments if this message already resonates with you. It could be just a simple phrase like, "I want discernment," or even, "Lord, open my eyes." When you comment, you're not only declaring this in your life, but also helping others who read it and will also feel encouraged to seek this discernment. And don't forget, liking this video and subscribing to the channel is a way to continue watering this seed of faith, because each word of Jesus is a seed that needs to be cultivated in the heart. So if this message has already touched you in some way, like it right now, subscribe, and write your statement in the comments, because we're just beginning to explore the riches of this transformative parable, and there's still much more God wants to speak to you. When we apply the parable of the wheat and the tares to our daily lives, we realize that it is not just an ancient story, but a faithful portrayal of the reality we face every day. Along our journey, we encounter people who, at first glance, appear to be wheat. They are friendly, have kind words, show interest in helping us, and even present themselves as spiritual, as someone who walks in the same faith as us. However, as time passes, their true fruits begin to appear, and what seemed like a loyal friendship or a genuine connection reveals itself to be nothing more than a mask. It's at this moment that the parable comes alive before our eyes, because we understand that the wheat and the tares truly grow together, and that only those with discernment can discern the difference before it is too late. How many times have you trusted someone who seemed like an ally, but deep down only wanted to take advantage of your kindness? This experience is more common than we imagine, and that is why Jesus left us this precious teaching. Discerning people who seem alike is no easy task, because appearances can be deceiving. A smile can hide dark intentions, soft words can mask a jealous heart, and even seemingly correct attitudes can be full of deceit. This is what makes weeds so dangerous. They don't present themselves as enemies from the start, but as harmless, someone who grows alongside you. Think, for example, of a co-worker who seemed like a partner at all times, but who at the first opportunity spoke ill of you behind your back to gain prominence. Or even that friend who claimed to be faithful, but in times of need walked away and left you alone. These examples show that Jesus' parable is not just about the future harvest, but about our daily lives. In the spiritual life, this becomes even more serious, because there are people who use the appearance of spirituality as a disguise. They know how to speak the right words, quote verses, raise their hands in prayer, but deep down, there's no real commitment to God. The weeds may even frequent the same places as the wheat, but they will never have the same essence. And if we're not careful, We run the risk of being deceived, giving space to people who, instead of bringing us closer to God, distance us from His presence. This is where spiritual discernment comes in, a gift we need to ask the Lord for daily. Because not everyone who says, "I am of the wheat," truly lives like wheat. Many approach us only to drain our energy, to hinder our journey, to steal our peace. And the curious thing is that often we ourselves are reluctant to accept the truth. We insist on believing that person is different, that they will change, that they are sincere. But time, just like in a plantation, always reveals the essence. The wheat ripens and bends because it is full of grains, ready to feed. The weeds, on the other hand, remain erect, empty, without fruit. This teaches us that the fruits of life are what reveal who is who, not external appearances. In practice, it's like someone who is always willing to listen, to help, to walk alongside. That's the wheat, while the weeds appear only when they need something, disappearing when you are in need. That's why it's so important to observe behavior, not just words. Wheat bears fruit of kindness, faithfulness, and love for others. Tares bring confusion, gossip, envy, and division. And when we identify these signs, we need to be wise to avoid falling into the trap of calling the tares wheat. Jesus teaches us patience because definitive separation belongs to God. But that doesn't mean we should be naive. We must be vigilant, pray, and ask for discernment so we can better choose who we walk with. In practical life, this means having the courage to walk away from toxic relationships, from people who seem like friends but only bring spiritual and emotional harm. Perhaps you're now recalling situations where this has happened in your life. People who seemed faithful but showed a different character when you needed it most. Or even people who approached you with praise and compliments but were actually envious of what you carried. This happens because the weeds can't stand to see the wheat thrive, and often their presence in the field is precisely to try to suffocate the good seed. This reality can be painful, but it's necessary so that we can awaken and learn to differentiate who truly deserves to be by our side. And I want to invite you to reflect. Could it be that today in your life there are people you treat as wheat, but who are actually chaff? Have you been making room for relationships that don't add up, that only steal your energy and peace? Think about it, because this could be the key to experiencing more freedom and spiritual growth. And if you're understanding this message, I want you to participate in the comments. Write, "I want to discern," or even, "Lord, give me wisdom." These words aren't just typed letters. They are declarations of faith that can open paths in your life. So, share your experience with me, like if this message has touched you, and subscribe to the channel to continue growing on this journey, because we still have much more to delve into this powerful parable. There's a powerful detail in the parable of the wheat and the weeds that often goes unnoticed. Jesus teaches that separation only happens at harvest time. This means we won't always have an immediate answer about who is wheat and who is weed, nor can we always distinguish right away what is true and what is false. A farmer, looking at his field, could rush and try to pull out the weeds prematurely, but Jesus explains that this would be dangerous, because in the rush to pull out the weeds, the wheat could be destroyed along with them. The lesson here is clear. Patience is needed, because time is the great revealer. And how many times in our lives have we experienced exactly this? Situations where we look around and don't immediately know who is truly with us and who is just pretending to be. People who seem like wheat, but only with the passing of time, struggles, and trials do they reveal their true colors. This process is painful because our human nature wants quick answers. We want to quickly identify who is true, who is false, who deserves to stay, and who needs to go. But the timing of revelation doesn't belong to us. It belongs to God. He is the Lord of the harvest. He is the one who knows hearts. He is the one who sees what human eyes cannot see. This is why life often demands patience. There are friendships that only show their true colors after years. There are relationships that seem strong, but in due time reveal deep weaknesses. And there are also people who, amid trials, reveal themselves to be true wheat, because they remain steadfast, supporting, helping, and lifting up those who have fallen. Time does not fail because time is used by God as a tool of revelation. How many disappointments have you experienced simply because you believed in appearances? How many times have you trusted someone who seemed like wheat, but time showed them to be weeds? And at the same time, how many people did you doubt at first, thinking they weren't true, but who along the way proved themselves loyal and faithful? This contrast is what gives this parable so much power, because it reminds us that only God sees the human heart, and only He can bring to light what was hidden. We don't need to judge hastily, because if we try to pull out the weeds before their time, we could harm the wheat. Have you ever thought about how many times your haste could have destroyed something good simply because you didn't have the patience to wait for the time of revelation? And here's a practical lesson. It's not always necessary to confront someone immediately, nor do we always need to fight or push someone away as soon as we sense something strange. Often our role is simply to observe, to watch, and to trust that time will bring the truth to light. The weeds may hide for a while, but when the harvest arrives, there's no pretending, because the fruits, or lack thereof, always reveal the essence. And this applies to all areas of life, at work, in relationships, in friendships, in family, and even within the church. The wheat and the weeds are mixed together, but God's timing separates them all. This principle also helps us deal with our own doubts. Perhaps you've asked yourself, am I wheat or weeds? Has my life produced fruits that reflect God's will, or is it just appearance? Time, sooner or later, will reveal. And this shouldn't be a reason for fear, but for reflection, because God, in His infinite mercy, gives us the opportunity to be transformed, to leave the weeds behind and become true wheat. While there is time, there is a chance for change. But it's also necessary to understand that the process of revelation is inevitable. No one can maintain a mask forever. No one can hide forever what they truly carry in their heart. And when we think about this, we realize that patience isn't just passive waiting, but active trust in God. It's believing that even when we don't understand, He is in control of the harvest. It's trusting that justice will come in its own time, that what is true will remain, and what is false will fall to the ground. This frees us from carrying unnecessary burdens, because we understand that it's not we who are responsible for pulling out the weeds, but God. Our role is to remain steadfast, to bear fruit, to grow like wheat, even when the weeds are right beside us trying to suffocate us. And here I want to extend an invitation. Look at your life and see if there are situations where you're eager for the truth to emerge. Perhaps you're waiting for a friendship to reveal who you truly are, or for a hidden situation to come to light. Remember that the timing of revelation never fails, because God is faithful. He knows every heart, every intention, every hidden secret. The weeds may deceive for a time, but they never deceive forever. And if this message has already resonated with you, I want you to write here in the comments, I trust in God's timing. This phrase is a declaration of faith, a seed planted, a reminder that you don't need to rush, because the Lord of the harvest is already taking care of everything. So like now, subscribe to the channel to continue receiving messages like this, and share this truth with someone who needs to hear it, because we still have much more to delve into together in this transformative parable. We have reached a crucial point in this parable where it is not enough to simply look outside and try to identify who is the weeds and who is the wheat around us, but we must look within ourselves and conduct a deep and sincere analysis of our own lives. Because the truth is that the greatest danger lies not only in recognizing the weeds in others, but in failing to notice when the weeds begin to grow within us. This parable was not told simply to point the finger outward, but to make us reflect on our own essence. Do our attitudes, our words, our choices, and our fruits reveal that we are truly wheat? Or are we, in some areas, still allowing the weeds to dominate? This question needs to resonate in the heart of every person who hears this message, because the Christian life is not just about appearances. It is about inner truth, about the transformation that only the Holy Spirit can accomplish in us. us. Many may even appear like wheat in front of others, but in private, when no one is looking, they reveal the attitudes of weeds. This shows us that there's no point in having a constructed image if the heart remains empty. True wheat isn't the one that merely appears beautiful on the outside, but the one that, in due time, bears fruit that nourishes and transforms lives. It's like someone who doesn't need to constantly prove they are of God, because their life speaks for itself. And here I want to challenge you to look within your heart and ask sincerely, have my actions revealed more wheat or weeds? Are the seeds I've sown throughout my life seeds of love, faith, forgiveness, and truth? Or are they seeds of gossip, lies, resentment, and division? This call to reflection is urgent because we live in a time when appearances often matter more than essence. But before God, this is not the case. He does not look at what human eyes see. He looks at the heart. And there is no point in trying to deceive, because at harvest time, all will be revealed. The weeds may deceive for a time, but they cannot remain forever. This is why we need to seek God's presence daily, asking Him to uproot from within us everything that does not come from Him, every hidden weed root. It is a sincere prayer we should all offer. Lord, uproot from me what is not yours. Transform my heart. Make me true wheat. Ubrais, this is the key to living a life that truly glorifies the Lord's name. And don't think this reflection is only for people just beginning their journey of faith. No, this reflection is for all of us, because even those who already know the Word, who have walked with God for years, can at some point let weeds creep in. It could be through unresolved hurt, pent-up resentment, silent envy, or even hidden pride. Weeds infiltrate subtly, and that's why we need to be constantly vigilant. It's like a field that, if left untended, will soon be overrun by weeds. But if well cared for, well watered, and well tended, it will yield an abundant harvest of wheat. Therefore, the parable of the wheat and the tares is a call not only to recognize others, but to transform ourselves. And I want you to think with me, if today were harvest day, if the Lord came now to separate the wheat from the tares, how would He find your life? This question is not to accuse you, but to awaken you. Because while there is time, there is opportunity to change. And this is the greatest gift God gives us, the chance to be transformed every day by His grace. It doesn't matter what you were yesterday. What matters is the decision you make today. And here, I want to make a direct appeal to you who are listening now. Choose to be wheat. Choose to live a true life before God. Choose to produce fruit that blesses others. Choose to sow seeds that bring life and not destruction. This decision can change the course of your story. And to seal this commitment, I want you to write in the comments, I want to be wheat. This phrase will be like a public declaration of your decision, and I believe that when you write it, something powerful happens in the spiritual world. Furthermore, when others read your comment, they too will feel encouraged to make the same choice. So don't put it off. Declare it right now. Write, I want to be wheat in the comments, because it will strengthen your faith and inspire many others. And if this message has touched your heart so far, don't forget to like it, because it helps spread this message to many more people. Subscribe to the channel to continue receiving content that edifies, awakens, and transforms, and activate the bell so you don't miss any new reflections. Also, share this video with someone you know needs to hear this word today, because it may be exactly the answer from God they've been waiting for. And let's continue this journey together, because the parable of the wheat and the tares still has much more to teach us. And I want to walk side by side with you in this process of transformation and spiritual growth.